Going on alongside Zamanza Manza. Thank you so much indeed for choosing to stay with us. We are coming to you live from our Hospital Hill studios in Mbabane. Your top stories at 8. The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade has launched the electronic queuing system. The United Arab Emirates has donated 50 propolis trees to the government of Eswatini in celebration of their 50 years of relations with Africa. And the Royal Eswatini National Airways Corporation says it is now in phase 4 of acquiring its air operator certificate. And now the news in detail. The Ministry of Tinkhundla Administration and Development today had its last consultation exercise on the decentralization bill with Bantu Benkosi and Bobabe Tikulu. The last session was with chiefs from the Shiselweni region, representing all chiefdoms under the constituencies in the region. Tinkhundla Minister David Ngampalala says the inputs from the chiefs are valuable because they will govern even generations to come.
Kwanyalo kuthathwa imufo yena ukuthi lo mthetho onene ubuka ukuthi uze simame kahle lelive lengwenyama ungasimamiswa yini.
We are collecting your inputs on the bill because we value your insight on what should be done to ascertain stability for the country. Input on what should be added and what should be amended. I have made the example of the admin of having to pay a lot of money to access Home Affairs services in town when those same services can be made available from Tinkhundla centers. Chief Dambuza Lukele of Ngobelweni Chiefdom, who spoke for Shiselweni Chiefs, responded to the presentation made by Tinkhundla Minister David Ngampalala.
I-decentralization lotangayo beyifike kahle ngesikhathi impilo ilukhuni. Kulukhuni kwetha imoto ngoba timbongolo nemahashi kwaphela.
Minister, your ministry's decentralization bill couldn't have come at a better time. Unlike yesterday, where we used donkeys to travel long distances, traveling has become expensive. Therefore, Minister, make sure that this bill becomes effective because it will respond to a lot of economic challenges. Tinkhundla Portfolio Committee member in the House of Assembly, Begiche Dlamini, explained to the chiefs what the next stage after consultations is pertaining the bill. Now that your suggestions have been noted down, the Parliament with the Tinkhundla Ministry will sit down and discuss all the inputs made by all chiefs from the 4 regions. The objective of government is that people do not travel more than 8 or 10 kilometers in order to access services. Sifiso Ngumalo for Eswatini TV News, Nhlangano.
The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade has launched the electronic queuing system. Now, the Minister Mangoba Khumalo says the system makes it easier for business people to register and pay for company and business licenses in an effective and efficient manner.
The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mangoba Khumalo, says the electronic queuing system is one of the programs to ensure the ministry goes fully digital.
The development of the electronic queuing system comes at a time when our capability in terms of information communication technologies continues to be put to the test, particularly at a time where calls for upscaling service delivery levels have intensified. This initiative introduces a transformed experience center for company registration services that allows clients and visitors to enter a queue by printing a ticket from a do-it-yourself self-service ticketing kiosk that allocates preferred service. This will not only eradicate the physical human interaction, but will also provide a professional and systematic day-to-day operations of the office. The aim is to provide information to clients queuing to aid sufficient queue formation and flow, as well as setting service expectations. I have no doubt that this program will increase service reliability as all customers will be treated fairly and efficiently.
The managing director of Slowmos Corporation, which is responsible for installing this system, promises that it will be sustainable.
We have developed quite a number of custom software for government and other individuals. So we do have the support and the after service, which keeps the system going.
The minister urges employees at the ministry to use the system to deliver the best services. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ngamandla with Vumi Nkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
The United Arab Emirates has donated 50 prosopis trees to government in celebration of their 50 years of relations with Africa. Speaking at Malkan's Research Center during the donation, the Church d'Afriz Said Bomran says the donation is a symbol of their unending support to Eswatini.
United Arab Emirates Church d'Afriz Said says the prosopis tree is the most special national tree in that country, making this donation one that signifies good ties with Eswatini.
The cultivation and preservation of the gum tree across Africa is a step towards sustainability and environmental responsibilities. As the UAE works hand in hand with the other countries to confirm climate change and the global challenge, and it continues to lead efforts towards protecting natural assets and ensuring their use in the coming years.
The Minister of Agriculture, Jabulani Mabuza, has expressed government's gratitude.
Since this is a desert plant that is drought tolerant and with very deep roots, our technicians are yet to discover on how best it will be utilized in the kingdom. The process of adaptation and localization to the new environment has to be understood and managed.
The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, who was represented by the Senior Forestry Officer, Mpegeni Ngumalo, says the trees will contribute to preserving the environment.
This activity will go a long way in supporting a noble program that was launched by His Majesty's government in 2020 of planting trees of high value in the country with a target of 10 million in 5 years. The slogan for the campaign is Plant a Tree and Save the Environment, which is Hlanyela Sihlahla Wonge Imvelo. And we are so happy to report today that about 991,752 trees have been planted in the country under this program.
The Minister of Agriculture says the ministry will ensure that it gets the desired benefits from the tree. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ngamandla with Mbongwa Dube, Malkans.
The Royal Eswatini National Airways Corporation, RENAC, says it is now in phase 4 of acquiring its air operator certificate. The process has 5 phases. RENAC CEO President Dlamini says the regulatory and other counterparts are expected within next week to view progress made.
The Royal Eswatini National Airways Corporation had promised that Eswatini Air would be operational by mid-2022, but that has not happened. RENAC Chief Executive Officer President Dlamini says they are still in the process of acquiring their air operator certificate, which is about to reach finality. Dlamini says they are now in phase 4 of 5 of the AOC application process.
Today's statement serves to inform our esteemed stakeholders that the project is ongoing and the process has progressed from phase 3 to phase 4 of 5, which includes the inspection of facilities, implementation of policies, procedures, and processes, evacuation, demonstration, and proofing flight. The regulator, jointly with the assigned regional civil aviation authority, has been on the ground to audit Eswatini Air's readiness. A report was received giving full details of the observations. Eswatini Air has addressed and closed most of the observations that by the regulator.
Dlamini says they've set aside a budget of 100 million emalangeni for the whole process.
For the setup, that includes everything, the components that we counted. That was the procurement of the aircraft, recruitment systems, setting up and everything. That was what. Then going back to what Mr. Mkachwa is saying, at the end, when we launch at the end of the financial year, then we're going to say, yes, this is how much we have actually spent. So we set aside 100 million.
Issuing of the certificate will mean RENAC will be able to start flying passengers to Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Harare, and they promise to do this at low cost. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela with Temba Shabangu, Matsapa.
The Eswatini Institute of Accountants says there is a need to strengthen all programs meant to capacitate workers in this sector in the country as there's still a shortage. The Executive Director of Eswatini Institute of Accountants, Barnabas Dlamini, says the Africa Association of Chartered Certified Accountants is in the country to find solutions on how the sector would be better improved.
Eswatini does not have enough accountants and auditors, hence the need to capacitate the sector. The Executive Director of Eswatini Institute of Accountants, they will work with relevant stakeholders to address challenges facing this sector. He continues to say the Africa Association of Chartered Certified Accountants is currently in the country to find solutions on how the sector could be better improved.
In terms of strengthening the profession, what can we do? What can we learn from what has happened in North Africa, for instance? So it is very important and it is key.
Head of Education and Development at the Africa Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, Michael Gora, says they are in the country to discuss the state of accountancy in the continent.
It's been a long time that we have seen any research that's been done which is Africa specific. There's a lot of research that's done out there, but it's normally globally focused in terms of what does it take to build a good and strong profession that delivers and supports the capacity building and economic development within Africa.
The Eswatini Institute of Accountants says there is also a need for credible institutions for this profession. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Langamandla with Fuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
The National Disaster Management Agency Chief Executive Officer Russell Dlamini says different ministries and organizations need to work together in providing disaster data. Dlamini says that this will help the country to be able to prepare for disasters in advance. The CEO was speaking during the official opening of Disaster Risk and the Risk Landscape of Eswatini workshop held at Eswatini.
The National Disaster Management Agency, with the help of the UNDRR, is currently looking at the disaster risk and the risk landscape of Eswatini. Speaking when officiating a workshop with key stakeholders, the National Disaster Management Agency CEO Russell Dlamini says the country needs to be ready to respond to disasters, as experts have revealed that more disasters are expected to intensify each year.
To accelerate action and improving access and the use of information to inform decision-making and transform behavior for disaster risk reduction. GRAPH is an international framework for developing and sharing risk information and promoting a proactive culture of risk-informed decision-making. Its objective is to improve the understanding and management of current and future risks at all scales to better manage uncertainties and mobilize people, innovation, and finance.
Katarina Mauket-Soltsova, UNDRR representative, says countries need to have a readily available data.
We are talking about different types of data and information which comes from different sectors, but which also reflects the different realities in the country, whether it is data about hazards or about the kind of assets and property and people who are exposed to these hazards, or about the vulnerability that these populations have or the different structures have and exhibit.
The UNDRR report reveals that based on trends, the world is likely to experience 560 disasters a year. For Eswatini TV News, Ndomlangeni, Ezulwini.
The United Nations Population Fund Country Director Margaret Thembe says Eswatini has impressive programs that aims at reducing maternal mortality. Thembe was speaking when providing an update on the strategy that UNFPA launched to curb maternal mortality in Eswatini.
The United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency has launched a strategy that will look into issues related to decreasing maternal mortality. UNFPA Country Director Margaret Thembe says the strategy is meant to align local programs with the world's. Thembe says ever since the rollout of the strategy, they noted that in some areas, pregnant women are still reluctant in going for medical checkups. Thembe encouraged women to utilize the necessary assistance.
Lo hlelo lesilondawo ngabe liyahambisana nalolu kufanele sikwende globally nesakhanza ukuthi kuyahambisana but sesibuka kakhulu ukuthi ngabe tindzaba ukuthi make angafi ngekufala noma ngekubeleka kona addressa ngalendlela lesi expected ngayo yini.
Recently, the UNFPA with the Ministry of Health launched a family planning guideline, which is another effort to ensure that Eswatini receive quality SRH services. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni Nelson Ngamandla, Babane.
Gwaka says it is looking at tapping into the mental awareness space so to assist men faced with mental challenges. This was said by Gwaka Executive Director Tom Churchiat during an interview about the organization's decade of existence. Churchiat also said they also wanted to assist in job creation as to addressing unemployment would solve a lot of challenges faced by the country.
Gwaka Executive Director Tom Churchiat says they have played a huge role in policy advocacy to bring about gender equality. Churchiat says they have been able to engage new groups and address issues of mental health, where he also talked about their growth plan.
Firstly, I think the national narrative has changed now. Men are more understanding of their role to play in families. That they understand that, you know, we have to be breadwinners, but we also have to be around at home, you know, for our children as they grow up, to play, to read, to do homework with them, and to perform some of those roles that always used to be part of a woman's job or a woman's role.
Gwaka Public Relations Officer Spesihle Dlamini explains what the 10-year anniversary means to them.
To us, it's about passion. It's about the motivation and the impact that we make at community level, because we go deep into the communities and discuss issues of social entrepreneurship. We talk about mental health. We talk about entrepreneurship in terms of making sure guys are able to provide for their families and Bobab are able to provide for their families, and then that is what it is to us, to see the impact in the communities being done.
The organization says it wants to go into areas such as the Shiselweni region and have meaningful engagement with men and boys of different sectors. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela with Temba Shabangu, Mbabane.
The country coordinating mechanism, a board linking Eswatini to Global Fund, is engaged in a workshop where it is looking at how to better deliver to the public. The CCM is engaged in this exercise with stakeholders in HIV and AIDS, TB, malaria, COVID-19 and the youth. The workshop is held at Happy Valley in Eswatini.
Global Fund financially supports Eswatini in various aspects, which include the fight against HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and COVID-19. The fund assists Eswatini through the country coordinating mechanism, which was engaged in a workshop on Monday to look at how it can better deliver to the public.
Labaningi batawujika sebakhanyiselekile kokuthi yini lekufanele bakubuyisele emuva emimangweni yabo noma ke emiphakathini yabo noma ke kulabo lababamelele la kokuthi cha bekunene imali ayidikithe etandleni thine sibuke ukuthi silanza letingcoco lephasi tale sive tale letidingako ukuthi naku nanako bahlukubeteka kanjani ngetimana sikhuluma ngetindzaba te-HIV.
The CCM works in the country through Nature and Kango, which in turn work with other organizations that work with people at grassroots.
I-grant lesinayo siyithole nga 2021 October 1
beqala kusebenza. So ihamba-ke nathi iyofika 2024 September. So CCM ulamkhasisi ubuka ukuthi where is the money yendani isebenza njani ikumelele nelicele lokuthi yente bona. So ubuka le nto le akasebenzi yedwana khona ema-office lamcoka ulokusebenza kwa-global fund sibabita ngabo LFA, local funding agent. Now they've got a story to tell, to contribute to lomsebenzi.
In 2019, the Kingdom of Eswatini, through the guidance of His Majesty King Mswati III, pledged around $6 million to the Global Fund, and this money has in a way helped Eswatini's fight against HIV and AIDS, TB, malaria and COVID-19. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela with Temba Shabangu, Ezulwini.
The Manzini Psychiatric Center mental specialist Dr. Violet Monjali says the COVID-19 and substance abuse is the main cause of depression in Eswatini currently. Dr. Monjali was speaking when addressing the significance of the Mental Health Day.
The theme for the 2022 Mental Health Day speaks of making mental health and well-being for all a priority. Dr. Violet Mwanjali, who is a medical specialist in mental health, says stress, anxiety and depression are caused by a number of social ills.
Over this past year, COVID-19 has greatly disrupted mental well-being of many individuals, not only in the country, I think in the world. Yes, we have been seeing quite a number of people coming with depression, as you've mentioned, anxiety, some even alcohol and other substance use issues because of the stress that is related to COVID. A lot of people have lost their businesses. We are seeing people who are coming up because they've lost their jobs. Those are some of the complications that are related to COVID-19. And also stress is the main cause, risk factor for mental health issues, and it can be any stress from not having money, losing your job, losing a home, having problems in marriages and other relationships, to name a few. So stress also is a risk factor, and also substance use, the insango, the cannabis and the alcohol also increases the risk of mental health.
The government of Eswatini provides mental health services for free. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Manzini.
Let's take a look at how markets performed today in our financial report.
It can be.
Welcome back. You're still with the news bulletin at 8 at Eswatini TV. We shall now take a look at news making headlines in the world of sports. The under-20 national team head coach Mduduzi Nxumalo says failing to maximize their opportunities, mostly in their second game of this year's COSAFA Championship against Zambia, is what contributed to their side losing to the young Chipolopolo by 2-0. Nxumalo says they are looking to rectify their mistakes in the game of Group B against Mauritius on Tuesday at Somhlelo National Stadium. Fabrice Msonera has more on that story.
The under-20 national team has played 2 games so far since the kickoff of this year's under-20 COSAFA tournament being hosted in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Having collected maximum point in the first encounter against Botswana in Group A, Eswatini fails in the second game against Zambia by 2-0. Team head coach Mduduzi Nxumalo says failing to maximize their opportunities has contributed in the disappointing performance, especially in the second game against Zambia.
It's going back to training. I think tomorrow we'll go back and prepare. It was not a train smash. It's not like we were outplayed. It's just that, like I've said, we made a couple of mistakes and we were punished. So there's nothing really that maybe one can say you have to change. It's just that we need to work on the finishing tomorrow and try and...
Eswatini's next encounter this coming Tuesday will be against Mauritius, with the hope that winning the game could give them hope to Eswatini to progress to the next knockout stage. The game will be played at the Somhlelo National Stadium and will be live on Eswatini TV. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports, I'm Linda Dlamini. Mbabane.
The Eswatini Q Sports Association is failing to take national teams to international competitions due to serious crisis that has hit the association. Muntu Dlamini, who's the association's president, he says missing this year's World Cup currently being played at Morocco will have a negative impact on the development of the sport, since such competitions give them an idea of where the country is ranked compared to other nations.
Eswatini Q Sports Association has been hit by a serious challenge of finances, where they are lacking funds to take national teams to international assignments. The association's president, Muntu Dlamini, says such international competitions were giving them an idea of where the sport is ranked compared to the other nations.
Affect the standards of abadlali ngoba all along lelizinga lapho beselo lenyuka vele kakhulu, but nyalo lokusaba sakhona iba exposed kulama games langala international and regional vele sekuyaba affect kuyaba affect the performance yehle. Keja ke sinalo ithemba lokuthi ngoba next year lama games beka seZambia ngaMarch or labe bekakhona the same ngaMarch atobe akhona next year atobe ase-South Africa kuJordan. Sinalo lethemba ukuthi labadlali batokhona kuphumelela, sitawukhona kuba nayo imali yokuthi singakhona kwe-South Africa sohambise onke lama teams.
Having missed the World Cup currently being played in Morocco, the association is looking to give much attention to the regional tournament to be staged in South Africa come March next year. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabisum Sonera, Babane.
The sports news have hit the home stretch of the news bulletin at 8 at Eswatini TV. Before we go, here's a quick reminder of our news making headlines tonight. The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade has launched the electronic queuing system. The United Arab Emirates has donated 50 propolis trees to the government of Eswatini in celebration of their 50 years of relations with Africa. And the Royal Eswatini National Airways Corporation says it is now in phase 4 of acquiring its air operator certificate. Beautiful Kingdom of Eswatini, we have come to the conclusion of our news bulletin at 8 at Eswatini TV. Thank you so much indeed for choosing to stay with us. It's been a pleasure. We shall now cross over to the Weather Center for a detailed weather report from us and the rest of the crew here at Eswatini TV. For now, it's good night and God bless.